practical videos where you will be able to see how we can generate ARXML files, the .c files and .h files. So in this particular video, I'm going to teach you about how to create an ARXML file, how to implement the software components, and how to add ports like required ports, provided ports, how to add interfaces, how to choose the interfaces, how to add runables, and then implementation of the software component and exploring this AUTOSAR authoring tool. So here I am back with the practicals with a project which is AUTOSAR compliant. Okay, so very exciting tutorials. This will give you a very good exposure into AUTOSAR technology. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to teach you live how to add these ports, how to create this software component, how to map these port interfaces as well with the help of a tool, not just a theory. Okay, so here are the things that we are going to do, that is creating an application software component, ports, interfaces, linking those ports and interfaces, creating the software component and setting the internal behavior for all the software components, configuring the runables. So let me explain you the project first. So the project is very simple. So I have selected this simple project so that I can explain it to you very easily. So even if you are a beginner in AUTOSAR, still you'll be able to understand this very easily. So that's the reason I have taken this very simple project, which is nothing but a temperature controller application. Okay, so here I am going to control the temperature of the process. To do that, I have three software components, mainly the temperature controller software component, LED control software component, and coil control software component. So these are the three software components I have in my project. Okay, so let us see how to add these, how to configure this in the AUTOSAR tool. Before that, some little more details about this project. Okay, so here, as I told you, the project is all about controlling the temperature of the process. So in this we have three software components: LED control software component, coil software component, and temperature software component, control software component. As we know, every software components have ports, okay, which are called as required ports and provided ports. Just like we have input ports and output ports, here we have a required port and provided ports. So you can see this temperature controller software component has got three ports, 1, 2, and 3. So this is using a sender receiver interface. You can see this icon. As you can see, this icon indicates it is using a sender receiver interface. Okay, and here you can see this is a client server interface. So the temperature controller software component has got three ports, number 1, 2, and 3, and the coil controller has got one port, and LED controller has got one port. So these two ports are connected with the help of sender receiver interface, and these two ports are connected with the client server interface. Okay, so that means the temperature controller has got one P port here, and this LED control has got one R port here. So this is a P port, provided port, and this is the required port. And then here we have client server interface. So this will become our provided port, and this is our required port. Okay, this is R port and this is P port. Then interestingly, you see there is one more port here which is receiving the temperature input. Okay, another input coming from some other BSW module. So this is again making use of a sender receiver interface, and as you can see this icon, this is a R port, required port. So this is getting the information from some BSW software component. So we will see those details maybe in some more videos. Okay, we will see how this data is coming from other modules and all. So first we will create the software components, and then we'll map the software components and the interfaces together. So in the next video we will do this interesting activity with our tool. In the previous video we discussed about the AUTOSAR project. So in this video I am going to create this software component using a CardioBot tool. Okay, let's get started with the tool. So this is my CardioBot tool. So I go to File, I will say New Project. So I'm going to select a project type, that is Application Software BSW. I will choose the project path. Okay, so this is the project path, and then I will name a project, any name you can give. I will just say project temp control. Okay, so this is the name I have given. Okay, so this opens up. So as we know, in our project we have 3 software components, right? So I will go to this software component tab, and then under that we have different types of software components. So as I told you, there are different types of software component. Depending upon our need, our application, we are going to choose the software component. So you might have also heard about sensor actuator software component, application software component, okay, CDD software component. So like there are different types of software components are available. So as of now, for our project, okay, I am working on the application level, so I will choose the application software component. So I need 3 application software components here. Okay, so I go to this application and press on this plus button. So application 1 is created, I rename it. So I have 3 software components, so I will rename it with those names. Okay, so temperature CTRL is my first software component. Okay, and then I will create another software component, and I will name it as LED control. LED CTRL. Okay, so this is my second software component. So I need one more software component, so I will click on the plus button. Okay, and then I will add a Keil software component, so that is Keil CTRL. Okay, so now I have 3 software components, mainly temperature controller, LED control, and Keil control. So as we go back to our project, so you can see we have 3 software components: LED control, temperature control, and Keil control. So now we have created the software component. So in the next video I will show you how to create ports for the software components. As we know, all of the software component has got ports, right? So we have ports here, and as well as in this software component as well. So in the next video I will show you how to add ports to these software components. In this video we have seen how to add software components. In this video we are going to add ports. So as we know, this software component has got 1 port, this has got 1 port, and this software component has got 3 ports. So we have also discussed about different types of ports. Okay, so every software component will have certain ports. They are called as P port or R port. Okay, P for provided port, R for required port. Just like we have input ports and output ports for the microcontroller, in the same fashion we have these required ports and provided ports for the software components. So for these 3 software components, now we are going to add ports. Okay, so as you can see, this port is the required port. So the icon that you can see, this arrow which is indicating towards the software components, so this is the required port. and this one is the provided port. So from this software component, I am trying to control this LED. Okay, I am sending some data to turn on and off this LED. So this software component is going to send either 1 or 0. Okay, so that's the data. So I am using this sender receiver interface to send this data from this port to this port. So this is the port, we call it as provided port, and this is the port we call it as required port. Okay, because it is getting the data from this particular port from this software component. It is another port which is again a required port, because you can see the arrow, so data is coming into this software component. So this is again another required port. Okay, so this is again indicates the sender receiver interface. And then we have another software component, that is coil control. This also has got one port. This icon indicates that this is a client server interface. Okay, so here function call is made from this software component to this software component. So calling function will be here, that function will be defined here. Okay, function call is made from the temperature controller, but that is defined in the coil control. So that is done with the help of a client server interface. So this is the client and this is the server. Okay, this is the server, this is the client, and that's why we call this as a provided port, and this is the required port. So which means that the temperature controller has got one provided port and two required ports. This has got one provided port and this has got one required port. So let's go back to the tool and add these ports to the software components. Okay, so temperature controller, we know this has got 3 ports, that is one P port. So click onto this add button, so port is created. So let's name this port. So let us have this naming convention like P underscore. Okay, so P stands for provided port. Okay, so I will name it as LED on off. Okay, I will name it as LED on off. This port name is LED on off because I am trying to control LED on off. That's why I'll make it as LED on off. So we'll come back to this reference later. Okay, as of now let's set it as none because we do not have any other options here. So let us set it as none. Okay, so one P port is added here, and then let's go back to the project. So here you can see this provided port is added to the temperature controller. Now we are going to add 2 required ports for this temperature controller. So let's add 2 required ports. Click on the plus button, one more. So again the naming convention, so this will be R underscore. So this I will use to control the coil. So I will say coil, let us keep it very simple. I'm just turning on and off the coil. Let us keep the name also as coil on off. Okay, reference again it is none. So this is another R port. So here I am trying to read the temperature data, so I will name it as temp read. Okay, the reference is again none. Okay, so now what we did, let's go back to the project. So we added ports to the temperature control software component. Okay, now let's go back and add the ports for LED control and coil control. Okay, I'll minimize this. I'll go to LED control. So LED control has got one R port. Click on this plus button. Okay, and rename this. So this is LED on off. So again I will name it as LED on off. Okay, just see the naming convention. Here we have LED on off. Here also we have LED on off. The only difference is this is R underscore LED on off, whereas this is P underscore LED on off. Okay, so again the reference is none. Keep it as it is. Okay, so 2 software component is done. Now the third one, that is coil control. So coil control also has got one provided port. Just click on this button. So here I am controlling the coil. I will say coil on off. Okay, so here also we have coil on off, but this is R, but this is P. Okay, so that's it. So we did add software components and then added ports to these software components. Okay, that's our second task. Okay, so we completed what? We created software component and then we added ports for these software components. So in the next video we will see how to link these software components through the port interfaces. Welcome back. In the previous video we have added software components and ports for the software component. So in this video we will see how to add interfaces. But before adding the interfaces, let's look at these basic data types. First we will add a basic data type because these software components exchange the data with the help of these ports, and these ports use the interfaces to exchange this data. Again, these ports and interfaces or the software components make use of the data types to exchange the information. So first we need to declare them. Okay, so using that data types or the variables, the software component exchange the information. Okay, so let's first add the basic data types. Okay, so click on this button and then I will just check this option and click on add. So once you do that, all these predefined data types will be added in this project. Okay, so next, after that, we know that we have three software components. Let's go back to our project. So we have three software components: LED control, coil control and temperature control. And this LED control and coil temperature control exchange the data through this port that is using sender receiver interface. So sender receiver interface is like sending and receiving the data. Okay, so to send and receive the data you need to make use of certain variables. So through those variables you exchange the data. That's what we are going to define here. Okay, so I am going to exchange a variable between these two ports, and that I am going to declare it in the tool. Okay, so to control this LED on off, I need some value to be exchanged, or some variables to be exchanged. So I will go to the values and I will click on this add button. Okay, and then I will rename it as LED on off, LED on off. So this is the variable. Okay, so you can also assign what kind of value we are sending. Since LED on off, you need just one bit. Okay, either on or off, so 0 or 1. So I will choose it as boolean. Okay, that's it. And then let's choose one more variable for this. Okay, as of now let's choose one variable. Through that it will exchange some data with the help of a function call. Okay, let's declare one variable for this as well. So later we will see if we don't need, then we will delete it. Okay, we'll first add that variable over here. So that is, you may sometimes hear some noise. Don't worry about it. Just focus on what I'm teaching rather than focusing on some noise. Okay, I hope this is not disturbing for you people. So let's add one more variable, that is our coil on off. Just focus on the course, not on the noise. So I will take it as unsigned int date. Okay, again here also it is just on off, but let us choose the different variable so that you will get to know what is the difference you'll see in the later stage of the project. Okay, so that's what. So this is my variable coil on off and it is unsigned int date. Okay, so I will add one more variable here. You can go back to the project and see there is one more port here which is getting the data, okay, from the external BSW modules. Okay, so this is a sender receiver interface. Again I need one more variable through which it can receive a data. Okay, so let us go and declare another variable So I will name it as temp read. Okay, I will take it as unsigned int 16. Save it. Okay, so that's it. So in the next video we will see how to make use of these variables and then the interfaces to exchange the information. So in the next video we will add interfaces to the software component. So in the last 3 videos what we did is we added the software components. Okay, we added the software component separately, and then we added ports for this. Okay, and then we added the variables. Now this link is not there yet, so we need to create this link with the help of interfaces. So in the next video we will do. In the previous videos we have discussed about adding software components, adding ports to the software component, and then the implementation data types also we have added. The basic data types also are added, through which the implementation data types are selected depending upon the data types. And then in this video I am going to explain you about the interfaces. Okay, let's go back to our project and see. So in this project we have 3 software components, as I explained you earlier: LED software component, temperature control software component, and coil software component. So all these 3 software component has got ports through which they communicate with each other. From this port to this port they are communicating, from this port to this port they are communicating, and there is another port through which some data is being received, right? So these are the ports, and every port has got some interfaces. Like majorly we are going to use sender receiver interface or the client server interface. Sender receiver interface is like a broadcast kind of communication. Okay, just like a CAN protocol. So data is sent and data is received by the nodes, and there is no acknowledgement. Whereas client server interface is like a function call. So there will be an operation. Okay, so whenever any function is to be called, so then there will be calling function over here, and that function will be defined here. So in such scenario we are going to use client server interfaces. Okay, and now here I want to turn on the LED, so I will just send some data from this port to this port using a sender receiver interface, which is basically a kind of broadcast kind of communication. Okay, and this is another port through which a sensor data is received. This is also using a sender receiver interface. So we need 3 interfaces here: 2 sender receiver interface and 1 client server interface. So let's go back to the tool and add these interfaces. So as you already know, we need 1 sender receiver interface and 2 client server interface. Sorry, 2 sender receiver interface and 1 client server interface. So let us follow this naming convention. So sender receiver interface will start with the SR. Okay, and I will name it as LED on off. Okay, this is 1 sender receiver interface, and then we need another sender receiver interface. Okay, again it is SR underscore. So basically this is to receive the temperature data, so I will name it as temp read. Okay, so now I have 2 sender receiver interfaces, and I need to have 1 client server interface for this communication. Okay, so this is client and this is server. So in the tool I will select a client server interface. Okay, so the name I will change it as coil on off. Okay, that's great. Now, so here we have sender receiver interface. Again, under sender receiver interface we need to declare the element. Okay, if you already know, we have declared the variables here: LED on off, coil on off, and temp read. Right, so now that reference we have to give here. Okay, so LED on off, let us keep it as element 1 under this. Okay, So I will choose this under implementation data type. You can see this is our implementation data type. Under values we have LED on off. Choose that. Right? Great. Fine. Then we have another here. Okay. So that also we will choose. Let us keep it as center receiver temp read element 1, and then this is temp read. Okay. Client server interface has what operations. Okay. Because here sender receiver interface we send the data through the variables, whereas client server interface is like making a function calls. Okay, so we need to add operations here. Okay, let us call this operation as CS coil on off operation 1. Under that we have arguments. So we have already added this argument here, that is temp read. Let's add that as well. Okay, so reference is temp read and not temp read. So reference is coil on off. Okay, implementation data type we are using coil on off, not template. Okay, then it is let us you can configure either in out depending upon your configuration. Okay, so now what we did, we added 3 interfaces: sender receiver interface and client server interface. Okay, as per our project we have added 2 interfaces and 2 sender receiver interfaces and 1 client server interface. I hope you have understood. So in the next video we are going to connect. Now we have added software components, we have added ports. Now we have also added interfaces, but we have not connected them. So in the next video we will connect these interfaces to the ports. In the previous videos we discussed about how to create software components, how to add ports, and how to link those ports, and how to add interfaces. Okay, so in this video we will see how to link the interfaces to the ports. So we have already created this software component as you can see in this picture, right? And we created ports for this for this software components also. Okay, and we have also added interfaces, but the thing is that we have not linked these interfaces to the ports. So in this particular video we are going to link these ports to the interfaces. Okay, let's go to the tool and do it. So here these are my software components. Okay, under the software components we have ports. So the temp controller has got 3 ports, 1 P port and 2 R ports. Okay, so here temp control in the picture, if you see, this is a picture. This is my P port, provided port, so which the data is sent to control this LED to turn on and off. Okay, and this is my R port here in the LED control, so which the data is received. Okay, so now let's go to this interface. Okay, here we have declared our interfaces, right? So we have client server interface and sender receiver interface. So these 2 are my sender receiver interfaces and this is a client server interface. Okay, so the temp control has got this P port, that is P underscore LED on off. Okay, so initially if you remember we had set this reference to none, so we will now set it to the right interface. Okay, so the interface for this is SR, sender receiver LED on off, so choose that. Okay, and then under that you can set the initial value of this variable. Okay, initial value by default is set to 0. And then we have 2 more ports here. So this is coil on off. Again select the interface. This is a client server interface. Okay, So as you can see in this picture, so this is my client server interface. So I'm trying to connect this port to this interface. Okay, so now I will choose this as a coil on off client server. Okay, right, this is done. This is also done. And then temp read. So temp read, again it's a sender receiver interface, and SR temp read. Okay, and then we can also set the initial value for this. So see, these two are sender receiver interface, so that's why we are just sending some data. That's why it is asking for initial value. Okay, whereas this is a client server, here we make a function call. Okay, so this is related to the operations, so there is no need to set any value as of now here. Okay, that's about the temp control. Then let's go back to our LED control. LED control has got one port, that is our required port. Again, this is also using the same interface, that is SR LED on off. Okay, done. So initial value is set to 0 here. Okay, and then we have coil control. Coil control also, here again you have to choose this coil on off. Okay, and then that's it. Okay, now we connected this port to this SR interface, sender receiver interface, this to the client server interface, and this one to the sender receiver interface. So this is how we map the ports and interfaces. So in the next video we will see how to add runnables to the software components. And welcome back. So we have been discussing about the AUTOSAR technology and the different layers of AUTOSAR. So AUTOSAR is basically it is divided into 3 major layers. At the top level we have software components, which is nothing but your application layer, and then in the middle we have RTE runtime environment, and the below layers are BSW layers, which consist of MCAL, EC abstraction layer, and the service layer. Okay, so at the top, as we know, the application layer consists of the software components. So what are these software components? The software components are nothing but the .c files. Okay, so these software components consist of runnables. Okay, so put together all the software components becomes your application, and inside these software components we have runnables. So runnables are nothing but functions in AUTOSAR. Okay, it's very clear. Runnables are nothing but functions in AUTOSAR. So in our project we have 3 software components: temp control, LED control, and coil control. So this particular software component, that is .c file, is going to have 3 runnables, that is 3 functions. So I will name it as R1, R2, and R3. And this software component has what? 1 runnable, I name it as R4, and then another runnable for coil control, I name it as R5. So totally we have 5 runnables. Okay, so the R1 runnable takes care of sending the data from this port to this port. So R4 is responsible for receiving this data. Similarly, R3 to pick up the data which is coming at this port, that is our temperature information. And then R2, here we have a different interface. Okay, this interface and this interface are both are same, that is both are making use of sender receiver interface, where here we have the client server interface. As we know, client server interface is nothing but it's like a function call. That means this is the runnable which is going to call this function which is defined here. Okay, so R2 is going to take care of this port, and it will call the function which is defined in the file control. So we will discuss more about this, and we will see how it is implemented in the CordoBot tool. Okay, let's go to our CordoBot tool and implement these runnables over there. Okay, so we know that temp control has got 3 runnables, so we will name them as R1, R2 and R3. So if you want to define the runnables or add the runnables in the software components, we have to add it under the internal behavior. Okay, so under the internal behavior we have runnables and events. So I will come to events in the next video. So first we will add the runnables. So I'm going to click on this plus button. So I have the runnables ready now. Okay, that is temp control runnable. So I will name it as R1. Okay, so which is basically to control LED on off. So I will say LED on off. Okay, and then minimum value you can set it as 0. Okay, can be invoked concurrently, you can keep it as it is. Then we also have to provide the data access for these runnables. So now I have one runnable added now. Okay, so R1 is added. So now we have to give access for this runnable to send the data through this port. Okay, so that means we have to give a write access to this runnable for this port. Okay, so that's why we have data access here. Then click on this plus button. So again you will get this select port and element. So the port is our LED on off port. So that is my provided port. So because you will have this P and R port, so you have to be very careful while choosing these ports. So now we have P LED on off. So this is my port, and the element just now we have declared the element is nothing but your SR LED on off element 1. Okay, so just check this out. So this is my port. Okay, this is my runnable R1, and this is the port. So this is my LED P underscore LED on off port, and this is my R1. And then we have this element LED on off element. So we have to choose that element. Okay. So then we also have to give the write access. So I will choose here as data write access. Okay, what we did, so we added a runnable, and then we given the write access for this runnable to send out this data from here. Okay, similarly we will add R2 and R3. So we need to create one more variable, one more runnable for here for this software component. Click on the add button. So another runnable is added. So I'll just rename this runnable R2. That is for file control. So file on off. Okay. Again here also we are making function call. So just click on this add access, data access, choose the port. So this is my R port. Okay, and the element is so CS, that is, this is my interface. Okay, sorry, this is my interface. CS client server file on operation 1. Okay, and in the previous also here we have chosen data write access for the variable, and here we have chosen the port, and here we have chosen the interface. Okay, this is the interface, the sender receiver interface. Right, so now here we have the operation. So here you have chosen what? The data write access, but this is not the we are not sending the data here, we are actually making a function call. So this is synchronous server call point you can choose by default. Okay. So now two things are done. We have added R1, we have added R2. We have given the write access to send the data from this port, and then we have also added R2, and we have added operations for R2 to call this function. Okay, that is synchronous server call point. So now two runables are done. I will add another runable. Just click on this add button. Okay, so I'll rename it again R3. So this is to read the temperature, so I'll make it as temp read. Okay, and then the data access again. So the variable and port you have to choose again here. So this is my the port, and this is my sender receiver interface. Okay, sender receiver interface, and this is the port. So let's go back to my project. So I have added R1, R2, R3. Okay, here I have chosen the port and the interfaces for this R1. Again, R2 I added, and then I have chosen the interface. R3 also added, I have chosen the port and the interface. Now let's do it for LED control as well. Okay, temp read I will also have to give the access. So it is data read access. We'll give the data read access. So very interesting point here. So for this R1 we have given the write access to send out the data from this port, and for this runnable we have given the read access because it is receiving the data from this port. So we have given the read access for this, and we have given the write access for this, and this runnable is going to call the function. So that's why we have mentioned it as a synchronous call point. Right, so this the first software component. For the first software component we have added the runables. Now we will add runnable for the second software component, that is our LED control.